Hello and welcome to the second episode of us building this Tomcat. Now, obviously there is an incredible amount of things left to do before the job is complete. And what I always do when we've got a lot of things to do is just choose one thing at a time. Turns out though, it's quite hard to decide which thing to do because this thing is unlike anything I have built before and everything kind of affects everything else. So I wanted this episode to be all about doing the interior, the seats, the floors, the footwells. So I started looking at where the seats were going to go, and then I realised I can't do that until I know where this section of the new flared roof will go and the new Tomcat wings. And I don't have those yet, so I can't put the seats in. So I thought, no matter, I'll do the footwells. Moved on to the footwells, and then I realised I can't do that until I know where the inner wing's going to sit, because I don't know how big to make the footwells. And I thought, no matter, I'll move on to the wings and the inner wings. And then I realised that I can't do that until I've fitted the shocks and the shock towers, which I don't even have yet. So, in truth, I have absolutely no idea what we're doing in this episode. I decided that it was best to start off with stuff that I knew how to do, like mounting the intercooler, gearbox and engine oil coolers, and the radiator. Moving on to the radiator, 9 times out of 10 on a Tomcat the radiator is fitted at the back, mainly for weight distribution reasons. Cooling air travels through a duct on the roof, you can see me fitting here. The radiator I'm actually using is an aftermarket one made for a Nissan Patrol. Boo! Everybody write boo in the comments to show your disgust. Calm down guys, because there are a few very good reasons why I've chosen this radiator. The first being that it is very large and that's good for keeping the engine cool. The second is that it fits perfectly between the backstage and the roll cage. And the third reason is because I had one on the shelf spare, so why not use it? Right, I've finished everything that I know about now, so it's now time to jump into things that I absolutely know nothing about, and that is fitting the shock absorbers. You will be pleased to know that I have bitten the bullet and I have bought some shocks. Now, they aren't brand new, but I decided it was a toss-up financially between them being brand new or good shocks, and I decided it was more important for them to be good than brand new. And here they are! They are Dobinson's shocks, and if you're in the UK, you likely haven't even heard about Dobinson's shocks, and that's because they're an Australian company. Very, very good quality shocks. I got them off a mate of mine who had them fitted to a Defender, and he has very kindly sold me all of the hardware I'm going to need to fit these shocks to this car. Now that's very, very helpful because it'll make my life much easier and it'll save me quite a bit of time. Looking at the front ones specifically, the bottom mounts just look like this, just a little simple bracket that bolts to the spring seat. So that goes down there, and very, very easily shock mounts to that. For the top mounts on the front, that looks very similar to this. These hoops weld to the chassis, roughly there, and then that's your top mount for your shock absorber. You might notice that this car is sat quite a bit lower than it usually does, and that's because I've been round all 4 corners and I've taken all the springs out. And the reason I've done that is because you've got to fit these shocks on something called full bump. What that means is when we land a big jump and come down the suspension, we don't want the shock to bottom out before it touches the bump stops, because if all the weight's on the shock, it'll just bend the shock and that'll be the end of that. It does give us an interesting secondary challenge, however, because we need to fully compress these shocks to know where full bump is. And I don't know about you, but I think that's going to be quite a challenge to compress these fully and keep them there. So we're going to have to come up with some system for that. The solution to this in the end was very simple. Compress the shock under the ramp and put a ratchet strap through each end. What this did mean is that we couldn't put full-size bolts through the mounting holes whilst we were fitting them, so we just used some M10 bolts instead. Right then, granted the shocks are now fitted, but there is quite a few more things I want to do just to make them proper. The fronts, for example, aren't quite strong enough just how they're supported at the minute. You can see just with me jumping up and down on the front, the shock hoops are sort of moving in and out with the force of the shocks. So they need some extra support brackets just to make them a bit stronger. I'm also going to make an extra bar between the two shock hoops over the sort of engine bay to just support them a little bit more. And then moving on to the rear shock mounts, I want to completely remake this top mount on both sides, because granted the shock isn't exactly in the correct position at the minute because there's just an M10 bolt holding this in and no spacers throughout the mount, but it is actually rubbing the mount on this side and it is awfully close on the other side, and that wouldn't be ideal because it'd start rubbing away some of the shock. And I thought, whilst I'm rebuilding the top mount, I may as well rebuild the bottom mount as well, because on the D2 axles the shock mount comes about that far down from the axle casing, which probably isn't ideal for this sort of stuff. The first job on the backs is to cut that bottom bracket off, and to do that all I'm going to do is just unbolt the axle. There's only actually 2 bolts holding the axle on at the minute, so undo them, flip it over, and then I can get a nice clean base for my new mount. Right. Whoever said this would be easy? Oh, not me. I must admit, most of what I'm doing now is total guesswork. I've never done this before and I was just learning as I went along. You can see those brackets that I'm welding on there are quite a weird shape, and I like to do this sort of thing differently to other people. I like to fit a shape with plenty of spare material and then shape it afterwards. That just covers me if I need any extra material I hadn't thought about before. After a quick test, I could weld the rest of the brackets on with confidence that they're in the right place. Then I could shape the brackets to make them look a bit more like the person who made them knew what they were doing. Once one side was done, I kind of knew what I was doing, so I did the other side off camera. Now this is where you guys come in. If you're an expert in this type of thing, I want to know from you how I could have done this better. If there's a better location to mount the shop, for example, should I have just gone for coilovers from the start? I want your expert knowledge in the comments. Once the front and rear shocks were mounted, it was then time to start looking at the front body panels. This basically entailed fitting a panel and then removing it, cutting a bit away, and then refitting about 3 million times for each panel. For now, these panels were just getting held on by tech bolts, so it was really easy to get them on and off each time. When it comes to do these properly, we'll be using M6 riv nuts into the chassis to make it a proper job. At this point I got distracted because I realised I wasn't very good at bodywork and moved on to the footwells because the inner wings were now roughly where they were going to be, so we knew how big to make those. With the easier footwell done, I tried my hand at the driver's footwell, which had considerably more to do in it. I fitted the pedal box from a Discovery 1 and of course chopped the clutch and accelerator pedal out of it because we didn't need them anymore. Right, finished the footwell now, or rather I've nearly finished it. Just finished mounting the steering column, so it's dead sturdy now. But before I finalise everything and do all the aluminium for the rest of the footwell, I want to make sure that that is at the right angle. I can't really do that until the seat's mounted in its place, and I can't really mount the seat in its place until we get this pallet from Tomcat. So we'll move on to a different job. Weirdly, the next job I'm going to move on to now is routing the coolant pipes. Because we have the radiator mounted at the back of the car, obviously we also need to get all the coolant to the back of the car. And the way I've decided to do that is by running the coolant pipes, top and bottom hose, through underneath this gear tunnel. You're going to be on this side because the exhaust is going to be at the other side. And for that I've got this rather nice 38mm stainless tube, and that can go all the way from the front to the back of the car. Because we now had a custom rear chassis, we needed to think about some sort of control arm for the rear axle, and I decided to stick with the Watts linkage that was originally fitted to the D2. I also decided that whilst we were doing the job anyway, we may as well upgrade the system. So what you can see me fitting here is a bracket that Blackbird Industries made me. I believe it's an extended Watts linkage from a Bowler Wildcat, and I won't go too much into the science of it, but in essence, the longer your Watts linkage is, the more perfectly up and down travel you'll have. You may notice the large gaps at the bottom of those brackets, and that's because these were originally made to fit a D2 chassis, which drops down after the spring mount. I'm going to leave these gaps for now, and once I can get at them a little bit easier, i.e. when I can put the cage upside down, I'll build a bit more chassis out to take these up. Now you may have noticed that in this episode we've been doing lots of very small jobs that still need doing, but that don't seem to be in any sort of order. And that's because we've been waiting on this pallet to arrive from Tomcat themselves, so we can actually make some real progress. But there was good news, because excitement has occurred because the Tomcat pallet has finally arrived. Main things on the pallet are the bodywork, the things that we're really waiting for so we can make some real progress. There's loads and loads of things on this pallet. We've got the dashboard, we've got a new rear cross member, we've got more roll cage sections, check straps, many things, but the main thing is now we can really make some headway with this project. Now, thinking ahead, which I always like to try and do, but seeing as this has taken so long to arrive, I've actually thought quite a long way ahead. When you fit all the bodywork and all the body panels to the cage, you can't actually drill holes in the cage to mount them, so you need all these little tabs to hold the roof to the cage. And you can buy these from Tomcat, but they are mightily expensive, so I've decided to make my own, and here they are. I'll come a bit closer so you can see them. So all they are, I've made two sizes, very simple, just a little tab with a hole in. I actually made a mistake because it could do to be a 9mm hole to take 6mm riv nuts, but I can drill these out, no bother. 2mm steel plate, which you can just weld to the cage anywhere you want to, and you can fasten the roof to. I've got 100 each of these for 40 quid, and I think you can buy a set of 20 from Tomcat for 20 quid. Don't quote me on that, but they are really expensive for what they are. But I've just made these. Dead simple. Right, I am so excited to crack on, so let's go. Right then, the first job is to fit these now correct length wings to the side of the car, and because It's previously been set up as a series style door, what I call it, where it just hinges from the front. We've got this bar that needs to be taken out, and also these little sort of hinge latch things that need to be taken out, because we have our new roll cage section, which will sit in something like that, and the wing will go around it. So, let's crack on. There we go then, the wing is fitted. Now I still need to build the back section of the tub to stop this flapping around like a wibbly wobbly. And also one thing I've noticed is I'm slightly concerned that I may have put it in a little bit of the wrong place, because there is a gap here between the roof and the wing. The roof is as far down as it's going to come. There's about a finger's width between there, so I may have put it in the wrong place. But I'll come up with some solution for that later on. What we can do now though, and what we wanted to do for this entire episode, is work on the interior. All the seats, the floors, the dashboard, everything that goes in there can now go in. So let's crack on with that. And I think at this point the camera had got bored of watching me grind and then weld and then grind and then weld again, because I decided it would rather look at this arty metal pole instead. Luckily though, it was interested when we finished the job and put the passenger seat in. I think probably because it knew it was near the end of the day. Righto, that's where we're going to leave it for today, because we've made an awful lot of progress in this episode, and also I'm ready to fall asleep. In the next episode, I want to finish off all of the interior stuff, get all the switches mounted on the dash, and also show you my new shifter, which I'm really excited to show you. And also we need to start working on the back of the car. I've got an extra lightweight crossmember to fit, the fuel tank needs to be mounted, the battery needs to be mounted, all that sort of stuff. An awful lot to do, but I am now optimistic that we're going to finish this project on time. You know, we're seeing big clumps of progress rather than just little nibbles of it that we were doing before. It's even starting to look more like a car, and hopefully the next episode will be much of the same. So I guess we'll see you next time.